Well, hi everybody. Welcome back. And this is going to be a little bit different video right now, and for a couple of reasons. I'm going to kind of take a break from the current project that I'm working on, the Pioneer SX1280 restoration. And I'm going to take some time to do two things. Number one, I want to try out the new camera that I picked up. My old one has taken, well, roughly 500 videos you see on here, plus untold other amounts of videos, were all taken with this old Sony, and what is it, an AX30, FDR AX33. And I don't know if you can see, but the eyepiece has so much crud in it now that it can't even be cleaned off. I mean, I'll have to, it's just, this thing has been through the war. It still works, but it's starting to kind of show its age a little bit. You can see the camera mount is kind of getting cracked and broken on it, and it's just time for a new one. It's kind of heavy and bulky, so I went with something a lot simpler. It's an older model camera, although I was able to acquire a brand new one, and it is a Sony model ZV-1. And some of you may know about them, some of you may not, but they're really were designed for what I do, YouTube video type things. It has built-in microphone with one of those little furry tribbles on the top of it that's supposed to help block wind noise and things. It has a mechanical zoom lens, and it has minimal controls, easy to use. Just you can, it's not a super highly advanced camera, which is just what I need. So I'm going to try it out and see how it works. The other thing I'm going to do in this video, and I'm also going to use the built-in mic this time, although it does have an external microphone input, so I can go back to my lapel mic if I decide I want to. One of the problems I have with any camera that I've seemed to pick up is that the built-in microphones, they're real hung up on making them stereo, which sucks, because if you're doing the kind of work that I do on the bench and you have the camera in a fixed point and you're using the internal microphone, as soon as you move from one side of the camera to the other, your voice moves from one speaker to the other. It sucks. It's horrible. And when I go to mix these things down, when I'm actually doing the editing of the video, you can actually hear my voice go from one side to the other. And there's never an option on any of these cameras for mono. Why you can't switch it into mono, I have no idea. But the only option you have at that point is to edit your video to the point where you subtract the audio track, separate it from the video, and then turn it into a mono signal and then recombine it, which I'm not going to do that. That's a big pain. I like to get these things edited, get them up there. I don't really have a whole lot of time because I just have a lot of things going on. I'm busy all the time. So we'll see how this one does with that separation thing, and we'll see what kind of sound quality it has. So that's why I'm doing a lot of talking here. I'm going to kind of test that. The other thing I'm going to do is when we get back to the restoration video, I'm going to try to do some close-ups and see how they do. That AX33 really did a good job on everything. That's why I really didn't want to get rid of it. Right now, those kinds of, that line of cameras by Sony, it's hit and miss trying to find them right now. Not all of them are always, like the newer ones, like the AX700 and some of those. They're expensive, number one. They're also not always available. A lot of the ones you got to watch when you're online, like with Amazon and eBay. A lot of times you think you're getting a new one and it's actually a refurbished one. So you got to watch that. So I'm really looking forward to this. Now the second thing I want to do in this video is I want to answer a few of your questions or comments. I used to do that earlier. I used to every now and then do a video on questions and comments and try to answer them. I've gotten away from that, probably because I just don't have the time, but let me know down in the comments below if you would like to see me do that again. I can't guarantee you I will, quite often, but if I know there's interest, I'll try to do it once in a while. I had one person ask me about, on the SX1280 restoration, why I didn't remove the potentiometers from the board and disassemble the pots and clean them properly and then reassemble them and everything. And I kind of try to address that. Number one, if you've watched any of my previous videos, and several of them, you've seen me do that. So it is something I'm aware of and that I do, and actually I have lots of videos of me doing that. In this one, the controls were actually pretty clean. The only ones that seemed to have any crud in them were some of the toggle switch buttons, or toggle switches. But the actual potentiometers were very clean and didn't need that. In addition, the little push buttons, like for the mode select, input select buttons, they're just little push-in buttons. They're long and they have a bunch of contacts in them. I really, really try not to disassemble them. And the reason I do that is they're very delicate. Even if you know what you're doing and have done this before, it's very easy to damage them. Those little tiny horseshoe-shaped clips that slide back and forth that are the actual contacts, very easily you can distort or bend them. In addition, when you put the little wafer board cover back on the top of the switch, it has to go kind of slip underneath a little catch spring, and that's the part that catches the button in when you push it in and out. Quite often you can get that messed up or mess up that little spring or the little plastic groove that spring rides in, and you've ruined the switch. So when necessary, if it's really that bad and I have nothing to lose, I will disassemble them to do that. But the reason I do the drill bit method, where I open the little hole on the top, is because that has been, for me, the most effective way to clean them. Someone else asked why I couldn't just put a little hypodermic needle with some cleaning product in that and just put it in the tiny little hole that comes with it. Well, the reason I like to enlarge it and use an actual straw with a spray can is the aerosol propellant that's used in there. It actually kind of foams up that cleaner and it pushes it around the inside of this switch. It covers the whole inside of the contacts. In other words, you don't have to hope that something drips down and touches the contacts. It fills it up and you can actually see it squirting out of every little crack and crevice of the switch. So that really helps get it spread around there so you can work the contacts and get it cleaned out. So that's why I do it that way. And it has been very effective. It's so far has worked really well. And then when you finish up, you let it all that stuff evaporate and dry out. And then once you get it all cleaned out like that, you follow it up with some deoxit red, and that deoxit will actually stay in there as a little protectant for the contacts so they don't get tarnished as easily. They'll last a really long time. So I hope that answers that question. And the same thing goes with the potentiometers. I'm not going to bend the little tabs and open the covers and everything on it unless it's necessary. A lot of times by the time they're 40 years old, a lot of these come in here and they are cruddy and they do need that type of service. Lucked out on this one, I didn't need to do that. So a little bit of treatment with some cleaner, and then I'll follow up with some deoxit Fader Lube Green, and everything's good to go. So I've tested it thoroughly. It's working great, so I'm not going to worry about it. Hope that answers that part. I had a couple comments about the Protect relay. When I did that first test, if you recall, when I had the transistor in backwards, I had those the dual pair, and they were flipped the wrong way when I combined them. It caused a DC offset on the one channel, and you were getting almost the full rail voltage on the speaker terminal. And when it started, what would happen is the Protect relay was like chattering. It was click, 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 and then it'd go in and out, random. And several comments about that's really concerning, because what if that happened in real life? What if the thing goes to the rail Is it going to chatter that power on and off to your speaker and damage it? Is this a flawed design in the new circuit board, the Protect circuit? Well, the answer is that it was on a very heavily current limited, light bulb current limiter, and the voltage was not correct. So those relays were barely coming in as it is, and it concerned me at first, just as it did all of you. So I really did kind of test it a little bit afterwards, after we got it all together and I got everything how it should be, and I noticed that that problem seemed to go away. So as far as I can tell right now, that whole thing was because of the current limiting bulb, the dim bulb tester that I had this thing connected to, and how much power this amp draws, even in idle. So I'm gonna chalk it up to that, and I'm gonna keep my eye on it, and we will do further testing as we go along. But I was able to drive the amplifier into clipping. It dropped out into Protect mode. It did its little waiting thing, and then it came back. Now the only thing I can tell you is, if I drive the amp into clipping, if the Protect relay comes in and I turn the volume down so it doesn't clip anymore, the relay comes back in pretty fast. And that's all a product of the timing capacitor that is used in the Protect circuit. So that might be an issue. It might be that, it doesn't stay off long enough for things to settle. I don't know. If that's the case, that's a simple little change in a capacitor value. I will increase the value of the capacitor. And if I end up having to do that, I will share a video with that. I will share that with all of you, so you know that that's where I am. But right now, everything seems to be fine, and this board seems to be working. It's been out for a while from these folks that make it, and I think if there was a problem, they would have found it by now and corrected it. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. I've had a few other comments, and I'm just going to kind of clump these all together. And they are, why didn't you do this? Whatever it may be. Why didn't you check the fuses? I'm making things, just paraphrasing some things. Why didn't you check the voltage, on the capacitors when you turned it on before you powered it up, or what, what I mean, or powered it up more slowly, or why didn't you this, that, or the other thing? I get people that complain about my videos being too long as it is, and even beyond that, I don't care about that, by the way. I put out what I do, okay? I share this with you. This isn't college. This isn't the University of Tony. This is me playing around on the bench, so I don't worry about that. But what I will say is, if I put every single thing in a video that I ever did on this bench, on every project, it would take me forever to post all the videos about it, and you would see a video about one specific object, whether it's this SX1280. I mean, this thing's probably going to be 10 or 12 parts. And these videos are a half hour or so, give or take, each video. That's a lot of filming, and that's a lot of editing, and a lot of uploading, and a lot of data, and a lot of my time. And even with that, there's things I'm going to do to move things along that I'm not going to show you. And that's why I have so many videos. There's 500 videos on my site here. And pretty much, if there's something you're interested in seeing, somewhere in my videos, I've done it. And I try to do something a little different in each video. So not only just to keep things, new, but also because I want to cover as many things as I can. And then sometimes I do repeat those things. So if it's been a long time since I've posted a video how to do this, I'll do it again in a more recent one, so you don't have to go searching back. The other thing is, I usually try to mention that in the title so that you can do a title search. If you click on the search hourglass or magnifying glass on my channel, type in the keyword, usually you'll find some videos where that keyword is in the title, and you can hopefully look it up and check that video out. Again, I don't do a very good job of categorizing my videos, and I should. Again, when this all started, I never dreamed that I would have this many viewers or anybody that interested in what I'm doing. So if I had to do it all over again, knowing what I know now, I would have been a lot more organized in how I titled the videos and how I categorized them and things, and made it a little easier to find things. So that's on me, and that's because I just never expected you all to be as interested as you are. So I hope that answers a couple of the questions out there. I have one last one that was kind of a fun question, and it's a long paragraph, so I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to kind of paraphrase. An individual was asking if I would do a video showing what my dream design for an amplifier would be. Not the one that I would like to purchase or one that's already existing, but if I could build one and the technology existed or whatever, and whatever, what I would do. If it was my design, I was the owner of the factory and it was going to be my design, what would I do? And then possibly could I actually build a prototype? Well, with solid state, that would be kind of difficult. I mean, there's a lot of they figured it out in the 1970s and 80s. And, when it comes to the transistorized amps, I'm not talking about Class D in that. It would be really hard for me to design anything, number one, because of my limitations of what I know. Number two, because they've done it. There's been people that have spent their lives working on these designs, for 20, 30 years, at the course of time from the late 60s up to the early to mid 80s. That was the golden era of that sort of thing. And pretty much they figured it out. So there's not much I could do that would change that from, so I would probably have a very similar design to that. What I will tell you is a little secret that I really wasn't going to mention until I get ready to do it, because this could be a year from now. But I have collected up the components I want and need, because I'm going to design a vacuum tube amplifier. And it's really, I don't know what it's going to turn out like. I don't know if it's going to be any better than what's out there. But I just want to work with a couple of features. I want to have a cascoded stage that acts as the amplification and the phase splitting stage together, and then have a couple of drivers after that, like 6SN7s or something like that, driving a large output stage, with 6550s or something like that, KT88, something like that, like 100 watt. So I started tinkering with that probably about a year ago, and on and off I'll open up some of my notes and play around with it. It's going to be difficult, and I'm going to have to do it all, but a lot of it's going to be brute force and ignorance. In other words, instead of doing a lot of math, which I'll do the math that I'm capable of, but some of it I just can't predict that way. I'm not good enough, and I'm not going to use modeling software or anything like that. I'm going to prototype things and test them on the bench and kind of tweak it that way. That's a long way off, so don't expect to see that project for a long time. I have a ton of things. I mean, I can't move around here. I have so much stuff in the queue to get restored or repaired, so I won't be able to get to that project till later, but you'll see it eventually. So I think I've wasted enough time on this video. There's enough content here for me to test out and see how things look. Until next time, I wish you all peace, joy, happiness, and good health in your lives. And hope everything is well with all of you. And boy, this weather's been bad lately here. It's just to date this video a little bit, it has been really cold. And if you ask me if I'll just say it's below it's been below zero a couple times, you know, kind of edged towards that. And if you ask me if that's Fahrenheit or Celsius, I'll just tell you yes. So, or at least that's what it feels like. So, yeah, not easy going to work, driving to work out in a hospital somewhere in the middle of nowhere when it's like that. But hey, that's the job we do. But anyway, thanks a lot, everybody, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.